At this point, I'm thinking MJF is such a fucking heel. He can, with all the shit that he did, and the attention was still on him through this whole thing. It was on him trying to escape. It was on him trying to get an advantage. It was on him. Though the referee sees him, he can't use the ring. His reactions and everything he did. Every time you thought that Wardlow finally got his hands on MJF, he would eye poke or whatever the fuck, or in some way get out of it until finally they did that spot. MJF was selling, but he got the ring out from his tights and put it on, but the referee was standing right behind him and grabbed it and took it off. And then, of course, MJF offers him triple pay and a handshake. When's the last time a powerbomb got a pop like that? And then from there, MJF just sold, and Wardlow did the slow milk. Powerbomb 2, powerbomb 3, 4, and 5, the foot on the chest, and broke his own cover. At 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Foot on the chest, 1, 2, 3. And they stretchered MJF out with the neck brace and oxygen mask. The only thing I couldn't figure the fuck out is then Tony brings Wardlow to the entranceway, and they announce that because he's won, now he has a contract, he's all elite. And Wardlow didn't say a goddamn word. Tony just walked off and left him standing there to wave at the people. He didn't need to do the Gettysburg Address, but he couldn't go 30 seconds like, finally, my time has come and you'll never see anything like what's coming up, blah, 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 whatever the fuck. And is it smart that now everybody's talking about the drama about MJF instead of the fact that MJF just got beat?
No, it's very smart. They couldn't have put Wardlow over more. No. I mean, 10 power bombs. I was feeling for MJF after a few. 10
well, he was feeling after a couple of them. Did you notice there was a couple of them, hands went back. Like, oh, Jesus Christ, not this again. And the best part of this was getting to hear Caprice Coleman on color. Thankfully, they're going to keep him around, apparently. Matt and Jeff Hardy can't move anymore. And when they got heat on Jeff, it was like getting heat on Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's. And I felt like somebody had a string tied to one of his hands so he could flail his hands around, And then Nick of the Hardley Boys missed the whisper in the wind. He missed that off the top rope on purpose. And then Jeff is supposed to hit him with one, and Jeff couldn't get up on a top rope. And I'm serious, he couldn't get up. You saw this, right? He couldn't get up on a top rope. The Hardley boy is waiting on him for 10 seconds, and then Jeff hits the flip and gets up, and apropos of nothing, because nobody's anywhere near him, just dives to make the hot tag to Matt. And it would just, it wouldn't end, and then he started getting heat again. And then the Hardys made another comeback. And then there was the constant four-way back and forth where there's that Knox, the corpse referee, completely useless.
He's completely useless. He can't even count to 10. He can't get anyone out of the ring. And again,
this went twice as long as it should have. And four-way for minutes. And the Cucamonga kids were hitting the super kicks like they were kicking Fabergé eggs. And then they set upstairs on the floor of the ring steps, and Knox just stood there and watched everything, and they put Jeff on the stairs, but then Matt and Jeff foiled it. But then they put Matt Jackson on the stairs, and Jeff swantoned him off the top rope onto the stairs. And then there were some 2 counts, and then they hit a couple more finishes, and then Jeff hit a swanton 1, 2, 3, thank fucking God. And then Jeff bails over the rail and runs out into the crowd. And it was a mess, not a match. And they've already exposed Matt and Jeff Hardy against job guys, as this is about what you're going to get now, which is why the people were kind of sitting there going, this is what we're getting. The Bucks tried overly hard to make it palatable, which since their shit looked stagey to begin with, it just looked even more stagey.
I'll try to focus on positives. I think Nick Jackson is very talented. Those are the positives of the match.
Those are the positives.
That's it.
All right.
Jeff Hardy, he said he did a swanton on the stairs. That was more like a cannonball flip. There was no grace to it. I worry about everyone getting killed. Matt Hardy's especially, but he doesn't look like he should be in the ring anymore. Like, it looks painful. Like, it looks like a guy in pain.
House of Black, Malachi and Buddy and Brody against Pac and Felix and Penthouse. And of course, the corpse referee again, so you know it's going to be chaos. Felix and Malachi, did you like they were ducking kicks that weren't coming within 5 feet of each other? It's like they work out a martial arts movie routine and they don't have the camera tricks because they're live with a crowd on all 4 sides of them.
What did you think of the white face paint? That was a different look than we usually have seen.
Yes, they look like fucking morons. They look like outlaw, bullshit, garbage, independent wrestlers. And I tried to describe it. Modern tag team wrestling. No tags and no wrestling. Endless moves over and over with no logic, back and forth with no baby faces or heels. No way to understand what the fuck's going on. Then everything stops dead for a second, and then they figure out what they're doing and start it again. One of the highlights was Felix picked up one of his opponents, handed the guy to another opponent. Felix kicked the guy's knee so he'll powerbomb his own fucking guy. And Felix and Penthouse and Pac, all 3 covered one fucking opponent, and Knox counted for it. I said, I've had enough. So I fast forward to the end, which is Pac is on the top rope about to come off on Malachi Black, and the lights go out. And when the lights come on, there's Julia Hart standing in the ring, and she blows the mist in Pac's face. And Pac falls, and she jumps out, and Malachi Black pins him. So now the House of Black gets Buddy and Brody and little Julia.
But that's what this is. It's the horror segment of the show. The lights, the fantastical stage show, the wonderful costumes. I hate this stuff. The House of Black stuff is the worst stuff in wrestling.
The Owen Hart Tournament men's division concluded. Samoa Joe versus Adam Cole. And Joe was trying to carry this, and it was the worst showing that he's had so far because this just didn't work. Nobody's buying Adam Cole, and he's not doing anything to sell himself.
Did you see his thigh slaps? Did you see his thigh slaps?
Yes.
That's
the only thing that makes any noise.
He does it so obviously, he doesn't even try to hide it.
In this one, finally, Bobby Fish came out and jerked Joe's bad shoulder that he'd been selling over the top rope, but then that was negated because as Adam Cole goes to do something, Joe gets a sleeper on him and then gets up and nails Fish off the apron. And then Adam Cole hits 3 shitty-looking super kicks and hit his knee and beat the babyface flat 1, 2, 3.
They shouldn't have Adam Cole win, and they absolutely are going to have Adam Cole win. And unfortunately, like it did here, it was going to telegraph who was going to win the women's side. Because you knew it wasn't going to be Ruby Soho standing there. As soon as him and his girlfriend, that they're not married yet, him and his girlfriend both came out dressed like a member of the Hart family, you knew who was going to win the tournament.
So speaking of the other half of the Owen Hart Tournament, Britt Baker and Ruby Soho. Anyway, again, the heel wins the Owen Hart Tournament by beating the babyface clean in the middle with a reverse roll-up. And then Adam Cole came out to congratulate his lovely better half, and we realized that as they're standing there in matching T-shirts, they're both exactly the same size. Tony Khan escorts Martha Hart out.
It was almost like this was the Hall of Fame speech she never got to give, in certain respects.
Well, that's true. But Kyle O'Reilly and Darby Allin, one-on-one. Both guys here were serious. It was like a contest. O'Reilly is both great on offense and on the drunk selling stagger-legged type of, thing. But he goes for a dive through the ropes where he's going to spear O'Reilly, and O'Reilly's going to catch him in a front face lock. But the first time he did it, he went through the ropes head first and just cannonballed straight to the floor and cartwheel kicked O'Reilly in the back of the head. And it hurt both of them. So O'Reilly ends up on the floor on the other side, and that's when Darby does it again, and this time Kyle caught him in the front face lock, but they were actually having a wrestling match. Serious. They were laying it in. Darby did another coffin drop onto the guy on the apron. He went for another one off the top, and Kyle caught an arm breaker. They tatered each other with a bunch of slaps. O'Reilly grabs that chain that Darby wears around his neck and puts it in his mouth and puts it in Darby's mouth and does a hangman mouth. And right as old Sockface says, he's got that unbreakable chain of Darby's. The chain broke and flew up in the air. But it was a great visual because then he drops right out of the hangman. And then O'Reilly hit 3 kicks and a sweet knee drop off the top rope. 1, 2, 3. It was absolutely the right result of the match, but another babyface gets beat flat in the middle by a heel who doesn't cheat. The Jericho appreciators against Moxley, Santana, Ortiz, Danielson, and Kingston. They all came out in white Guardian Angel ripoff outfits. Hager looked especially ridiculous in that getup. So they started a quote-unquote fight in the arena and the bleachers and the floor, and Wild Thing was playing loud, blaring, incessantly. And they're all over the arena out in the crowd, and lawsuits are waiting to happen, stacked up and down the aisleway. And then they looped Wild Thing, and it played the whole way through and then started over again. As this is fucking horrible. You couldn't follow any of this shit. It's 10 guys paired off 5 pairs each in different places in the arena. The cameras can't follow it. Nobody knows what's going on. They're watching different things. The music won't stop. It looked like something that Russo booked. And then there was Daddy Mac Daddy in the crowd bleeding everywhere he's slinging his head and the blood is flying. There's another lawsuit. And what didn't look phony looked dangerous. There was no work. There was no excitement. They're hitting each other with shit that they're finding laying around and on concrete. So there's nothing exciting going on. It's just a fucking fake-looking mess. And then, thankfully, the best part of the match, Jericho got to the soundboard and smashed the soundboard and stopped that music. And they were in the breezeway, and somebody was in an elevator, and they were breaking tables. That Garcia gave Ortiz a pile driver off the apron onto the ring stairs. I don't know which is stupider, the guy giving it or the guy taking it. Jim Ross in the middle of it, well, this is hard to call, which is his code for saying what I thought. This is everything wrong with professional wrestling today, all in the same fucking match. They took the top rope off. I don't know why they weren't using the ring anyway. Moxley was bleeding. He has to bleed because he loves the garbage. Kingston was the one in the freight elevator with somebody. And we barely got to see Danielson. He was trying to hide, probably out of embarrassment. They had a ladder. They had a barbed wire board. They broke several more tables. The heel used the fire extinguisher. They can't even get that right. I fast forward to the finish. What I think is going to be the finish. I thought it was going to be the finish when Eddie Kingston came in with a quote-unquote gas can. Danielson has the crossface on Jericho. Kingston pours the quote-unquote gasoline on top of both of them, despite the fact that they've already stooged themselves because now the people in the front row know we can't smell any gas. And nobody would continue on the way they were if they'd had gas poured over the top of their fucking head. This is so fake and phony and insulting, and now they got Danielson involved in it. Danielson and Kingston get in a fight. Moxley separates them. Jericho hits everybody with a chair. Moxley gets knocked off the ring onto the barbed wire board and gets stuck in that. I was happy to see that. Jericho hits Danielson with the turnbuckle and gets a 2 count. This can't even be the finish. More fake punches. Danielson now makes a comeback on Jericho and Hager, but everybody else in the match has disappeared. It will not end. And finally, Jericho gets the lion tamer, such as it was, on Danielson, and Hager wraps the top rope around his neck and chokes him out. This fucking sucked.
If I can give any positives at all, Danielson, even in this, even with whatever this was, him yelling, I'm going to kick his fucking head in. The way he looked like a guy in a fight. It was great. Everything. But Eddie Kingston was the most over guy. When they announced people at the beginning, babyface and heel, he was the most over one in this match. And the other story is Jericho wins the match beating Danielson. How did they convince anyone that was a good idea for the ending? I'm going to beat Danielson.
Keith and Swerve and Starks and Hobbs and Jungle Boy and Dino Douche. Well, they tried to make up for how late it was in the night because at the bell, they did a 6-way on the floor with multiple dives going 100 miles an hour. And Knox was the referee. At one point, it slowed down a bit to where it was palatable so Hobbs and Starks could look good getting some heat on Jungle Boy. That actually looked like a wrestling match for a minute in the middle of this, but then The one spot you mentioned, and I liked it, Starks did the rope walk spot, where he grabs the guy's hand and he's walking the top rope like the Undertaker, but he's doing all his strutting and gesticulating. And who was it? Old Jungle Boy jerked him off the top rope and he crotched himself on the rope, and that was entertaining. But he backdropped Starks over the top rope. Starks held on and was going to land feet first on the apron, but Dino and Jungle Boy were down on the floor waiting to catch him. And so when he went over the top, he put his feet on the apron, but he lost his grip on the rope and he fell backwards over them, and they ducked and reverse backdropped him to the floor, and he landed on his head after a previous broken neck. Wasn't he one of the guys that broke his neck?
It was either a broken neck or very close to it, yeah.
And the whole match came to a halt with all the guys in the ring and the guys on the floor going, what was that? In their own match. They didn't know what the fuck had just happened. And then Swerve jumped up and backflipped off of Keith Lee's chest to all of them on the floor to make sure his neck was broken if he hadn't have just broken it on that previous bump. And then Swerve and Hobbs got confused trying to do something. And then Hobbs belly-to-bellied Swerve off the top rope. And they get all three of the big guys, Keith Lee and Dino Douche and Powerhouse Hobbs, in. And there's three guys, one from each team. That's not legal, but Knox is standing there watching it all. And they have a sloppy fight because you don't want the fucking big guys when the big guys are all so green. Did you see they wiped the Lizard out of the equation, and Hobbs and Keith Lee faced off? And I dare anybody that still has access to this, go back and watch the point where Hobbs and Keith Lee face off, and I have never seen this before, but I've only been watching wrestling for 50 years. They went to punch each other, and both of them missed each other accidentally. They're standing there face to face, and they both draw back their right hands, and they swing, and they both missed each other. And it wasn't on purpose. It wasn't like a duck miss. It was like a we just fucking fucked up missed. And somehow Jungle Boy and Dino Douche beat Swerve with some fucked up thing that I wouldn't trust the dinosaur to do to me. The tag team champions remain the fifth best tag team in the company. And it starts at the entrance. Punk's entrance is big time. He's got real music. He's over. He's been somebody. He comes out, there's excitement. And then Paige's slow, bland, generic music with the outlaw horse graphics on the screen. And he comes out with that confused look on his face. It's not the same level. And they worked it like a fight. From the start, the lockups, the stiff shots, the stiff chops. You know, I don't even know. It was back and forth enough that we don't need to go blow for blow. But in the go-home stretch, they kept calling for either the go-to-sleep or the buckshot lariat. And Punk finally, he went for the buckshot, but he fell short. But Paige ducked under him, got him up for the go-to-sleep, and Punk countered that. But Punk went for another buckshot. The first time I thought maybe that was the spot. The second time I think he was trying to get it. He couldn't get it because he couldn't land on his feet. That's an odd movement, right? He did it a few weeks ago on TV, but that was not with a 30-minute match in front of it. Anyway, on the second time, Punk clotheslined Page anyway, but he sold his knee. So there's a reason why he couldn't do it. His knee's bad. And then they traded go-to-sleeps. They had the exhausted fight on their knees. Page gets heelish at the end by not only clotheslining Punk over the top rope, but throwing him over the table and taunting him with the title belt. So, I mean, is he going to go full heel? They bumped the referee with the fireman's carry. The legs got Paul Turner. All three of them were selling. And then, but the fucking finish, we went straight back to the WWF. Page is standing over the referee who's down, and Punk is selling. And now Page moves in slow motion, and he sees the title belt laying on the ring, and he takes forever, but he goes over and he gets the belt, but he's going to hit Punk, but maybe he's not, but maybe he is, but maybe he's not. You can see on his, actually you can't see on his face. It's the same confused look he always has. But he's standing there, and finally he says, no, he's not going to do it. He drops the belt. He goes for the buckshot. Punk picks him up in the go to sleep. 1, 2, 3.
Well, let's talk about the positives. The right guy won.
Right guy won.
Took a little while to get it on Punk, but the right guy right now has the belt. For whatever you want to do with the company, however you want to try to grow it or get the word out, this is the right guy to have the belt right now. Don't you agree?
Well, Danielson would have been the right guy in December, I think it was. And Punk is the right guy now. If we'd have got Danielson in December, could we have gotten Punk and Danielson? I
think we're still going to get Punk and Danielson. When are they going to start
giving us the big money matches? When are they going to realize that we don't care about the amateur class? We want the big money matches.